about Pat, he never disappoints. I knew he was going to get a couple shots about soccer in there. Nicely done. And for the record, I did score a goal. It was an own goal, but it was a goal. And Pat's probably the only person in America today that's happy we did not qualify for the World Cup. So that was also well done. And just to clarify, also, the Wizards also win as well. We made the playoffs. So just clearing up a few things as well. This is truly a special night for me. I've been very blessed. Broadcasting has taken me all around the world, literally, but Anne Arundel County has always been my home, and it's quite an honor to be up here with these really extraordinary athletes. In fact, I'm humbled a bit because I think an own goal was probably the best goal I ever did score as well. And as I'm sitting next to Brooks, who an accomplished football player, my old gym teacher, Jeff Herrick, comes up and says, did you tell him about how you did in my weight training class? And I'm thinking, is that a bit of a shot here? I mean, I tried real hard. But so I'm just trying to regain my confidence. So thanks Brooks for hanging in there. Brooks didn't even, facial expression never even changed there. In fact, my only, Bernie Walter's still here tonight, right? Bernie, and Bernie's not even sure I went to Arundel. He has no idea that I was ever there. In fact, I think he wanted a recap when they said, are you sure he's from here? But my only, this is a true story, my only contribution to Arundel High School athletically, significantly, is Denny Nagel grew up behind me. And he used to jump over the fence to play basketball. And I did such a great job with him playing basketball, turned into a baseball player for you at Arundel High School in a major league career. So I serve as quite a launching pad for a lot of folks. It's, you mentioned, I'm finally on a short list of something other than jury duty, as I'm on a short list of, I guess, of media folks that are in the Anne Arundel County Sports Hall of Fame, including Keith Mills. Again, I remember as I was working with Bob Martell in Baltimore, and I just thought Keith was the coolest guy in the world, as he was working so hard and he was so well connected, and he did serve as an inspiration where you strike that balance between not only covering the pros, but also right down your street into the neighborhood and the local communities. You mentioned Heidi Cohen. Joe Cohen did high school football with me at WNAV, so it's a small world. And Charlie Ekman, one of the jobs I had was as overnight disc jockey back when they still spin records or whatever we did at WFDR in Baltimore. And it was a great thing when Charlie used to always call me leader, until somebody explained to me that he calls everybody who doesn't know their name leader. So then I thought, well, that's not such a big deal. But also to Pat O'Malley, as I came to Annapolis in that summer of 1987, and I was following Pat, but as always, he could not have been more gracious, because Pat O'Malley in 1987 was already a legend, and it was a legend by hard work and commitment to this county that we lived in. So if I was going to survive in Annapolis and do well, I had to do the things that Pat O'Malley was doing. I had to reach out and get involved in the community, and that was so important to me because it is my community. Although in some ways I'm a story that almost didn't happen because they did try out a couple people before me, Steve, but you finally got the right choice, and I appreciate that. But I had a tryout with Jake Einstein, who was the owner, and he was, shall we say, personable. That's one way to describe him. And I felt really good by the end of the week, because I was told I had a week trial, and he would let me know after Friday morning whether I'd have a job. And I just come from Baltimore, where I was spinning country music records. I was a country music disc jockey, and if you ever listen to my sportscast, I still steal the lyrics from those songs in my work, because there's really not an original thought in my head. I'm just stealing from song lyrics, and it's working out okay. But so I felt pretty good, because Jake gave me the thumbs up. Yeah, we'll keep the sports guy. Well, paper in the afternoon paper, the Capital was an afternoon paper at the time. I won't mention the name of the writer, a guy named Brett Friedlander, but So he writes this article of why I'm the wrong choice to replace Pat O'Malley. The problem was he assigned the wrong resume. I guess there was some other guy who we can't come up with the name of. I thought it was Larry Michael of the Redskins, but it wasn't. I talked to Larry today. He assigned somebody else's resume to my name. That I was this outsider from DC, I was a mutual producer, and what did I know about Anne Arundel County? And this is a perfect example of why there is some good Wikipedia pages now that you can look all this stuff up and find out about people. But Bill Wagner got it right in this wonderful article, and I thank you so much for that on Sunday. As I do have one listener, Brian Severa, made it all the way from DC, and this is typically how I target. I usually have one or two listeners at a time. You don't want to overcrowd. You want to be more personal. It's becoming a more niche marketing world. And as Bill noted in the article, I had one specific listener as I was growing up. My mom had a challenge with a disease that affects people in different ways. It's multiple sclerosis, and she was confined to a wheelchair. And I became fascinated by the connection that as she would listen to the radio, listen to WTOP. And how's that for coming full circle where I work now? Or one of my jobs. I'm paranoid and insecure, but that's a whole other story. But she was my audience of one. You know, it was, she was very proud of me, and I would put on the shows for her. It was an interesting dynamic. I think my dad, while other fathers at his work were probably talking about their kids that were hitting game-winning home runs and doing great jump shots, my dad probably had to go to work and say, well, I have a son that talks to himself in his room alone. So I don't know how proud he was early in my life, but sadly she did pass away in 1979, and I bring that up because as I stand here in front of a room, many of you are coaches, administrators, teachers, and the impact that you have and we can all have just by doing simple things to help, and especially young people along. When she passed away in 1979, I was very much a lost kid at that point. But to this day, and I've shared this, and she's not here tonight, but she was a teacher at Arundel High School. Her name is Kathy Collins, who later married Frank Drazen, who was a math teacher that taught math that I didn't understand, so I was never in his class, but that's a whole other story. But I still remember, and it's a picture that ended up in the Arundel yearbook. It was just a profile shot of me looking incredibly angry, and the caption was, "I'll get that dirty rat." And it was kind of a funny thing. It's funny when you look at pictures though, and you remember exactly what's going through your mind at that time. And at that time was incredible sadness, and I was 15 years old, and I really didn't know what was going to happen next. I was scared for sixth period. What happens after school? And I remember Ms. Collins coming up and just talking to me while we're having a homecoming pep rally. There was all this joy and wonder going around. But to this day, I still remember that conversation, how much it calmed me, how much it made a difference, and how much it allowed me to continue with that day. And that's what coaches and teachers do every day with the young people. And that's what we can do every day with anyone, to encourage them along the way. Maybe it's that one conversation, maybe it's that one sentence that makes a difference in someone's life, and they make it through sixth period and make it through that day, and you continue on and it gets better. And by the end of high school, I was trying to figure out what was next, and I still remember the encouragement and support of my dad saying, well, you always wanted to be a broadcaster, so why not? Why not do that? Because my confidence was shot at that point. I didn't think I could do much of anything. Where should I go? My grades would suffer, et cetera, et cetera. So fortunately, I was able to get into what I like to call the Harvard of North Baltimore, Towson State. which it was Towson State at that time, and that just made all the difference in the world. But you don't get success and help without help along the way. My time with Bob Bartell, who was a legendary sportscaster in Baltimore at WCAO Radio. I was his producer, intern while I was working at a hit parade station, a rock and roll station. I was doing that for money and doing sports for him for free. And one of my big jobs as his producer/intern was always to tell him whether his hair was straight and whether he needed a breath mint. But it's those little skills that allow you to further and it keeps you around for something like that. I couldn't have gotten further in my career without the support of Steve Hopp at WNAB, and I'm so honored that he is here tonight, because WNAB is truly a special place committed to your community, our community, Anne Arundel County, and making a difference. And that's not happening as much as it should in other communities and other radio stations. It was funny, I stopped by WNAB today and Steve said, well, at least you don't have to wear a bathrobe on West Street like I used to do my sportscast because we had a bagel sponsorship. I said, well, funny you say that. I don't have to wear a bathrobe, but for years at WTOP, I wore my pajamas at a Select Comfort bed stores throughout malls. So it doesn't matter what level or where you are in this wonderful business. You might find yourself on a bathrobe, wearing a bathrobe on a major street someday, and actually call that a job. I'm so pleased that my family from WTOP is here tonight, because they truly are like family. I've been there twice, and I know they like a boomerang. You can't get rid of me. I just keep coming back. But the second time has been 23 of the best years of my life, and it's because Joe Oxley and his entire team at WTOP, and Mike McBurney, who I always remind, I got you your first job in your radio with Steve Hopp at WNAB, so don't forget that part. But the environment that you create doesn't make it work. It's a special place to go each and every day. And Hunter Locke and Rebecca Wynn from the Wizards, I appreciate you crossing the Potomac River. That's a big deal to come all the way out here to Anne Arundel County. We'll stamp your visa on the way back out. But it's, just don't stay too long. You might get an accent or something here. But the other reason that, the main reason that I'm blessed to do what I do is again, we're talking about extraordinary athletes, but the magic of sports has never been lost on me. From the time when my mom, who was the biggest sports fan, and we'd go to games, when you're at an event, whether it's a professional game or whether it's a high school game, or we lost one of my WTOP family because she had to get to a girls' field hockey game, and that's what she should do, get to a girls' field hockey game. Whether you're at whatever level, those are the happiest couple hours of your day in many cases. And every night as I'm allowed to do these Wizards broadcasts, there's game-winning shots, and there's game-winning shots, Pat. We do win every now and then. But it's more when you look around the crowd and you see the people and you see the families together and the connection. That's what gives me the biggest thrill, and that's why I'm still so blessed to do what I do on a daily basis. Couldn't have done anything without my wife Diane, who's been incredibly supportive. The good thing about all my travel schedule, we just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary, but actually only been married about 5 years that I've been home. So that's, she's not laughing, you know what I'm saying? That was a joke, I thought. So we're in a sense newlyweds. And my son Pierce, who just went off to the University of Delaware, and I just discovered that having a kid in college is a bit like a timeshare. I pay 40 grand, get a golf shirt, and never see him. So I don't know how that works. He's off on his own way, and he's a very confident guy, and I'm very proud of that. But more importantly, I'm very, very proud of this award and to be a part of the Anne Arundel County Sports Hall of Fame, because this is the county, with the support of so many people, that gave a lost kid a voice. And it's a voice that I'm blessed to be able to use each and every day. And I could not have done it without everyone in my life. And the inspiration and the takeaway, I hope, is that we each can do something special for someone else by doing the simple thing each and every day. Again, I'm forever grateful, and thank you for the time.